It was supposed to be a simple field trip to the Natural History Museum. 28 sixth graders from Jefferson Elementary and their teachers boarded the yellow school bus that October morning in 1982. The bus returned empty that evening. For 15 years, no one knew what happened to the missing class until construction workers broke into an abandoned Cold War bunker and discovered the horrifying truth. Welcome to Hidden Legends. Before we begin this powerful story of courage, betrayal, and forgotten heroism, tell me in the comments where you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this need to be heard, hit that subscribe button and help us make sure they are. Now, let's uncover the truth behind one of America's most disturbing disappearances. The morning of October 15th, 1982, dawned crisp and clear in Millbrook, Connecticut. At Jefferson Elementary School, 28 excited sixth graders gathered in the parking lot, clutching their lunch bags and permission slips. They were about to embark on what their teacher, Mrs. Catherine Wells, had promised would be the educational adventure of a lifetime, a field trip to the Smithsonian Natural History Museum in Washington, D.C. Mrs. Wells, a beloved teacher with 20 years of experience, stood beside the bright yellow school bus checking names on her clipboard. Next to her, Mr. Robert Chen, the school's science teacher, helped students board while discussing the dinosaur exhibits they would see. "Remember, stay with your buddy at all times," Mrs. Wells called out, her voice carrying the authority that had made her one of Jefferson Elementary's most respected educators. "We'll be back by 4 o'clock, and I expect everyone to have learned something amazing to share with their families." The children buzzed with excitement as the bus pulled away from the school at 8:30 a.m. Parents waved from the parking lot, cameras clicking to capture their children's faces pressed against the windows. Among them was Linda Patterson, whose daughter Sarah had talked about nothing but dinosaurs for weeks. "Bring me back a fossil," Linda called, laughing as Sarah's face lit up with promise. It was the last time any parent would see their child alive. The first sign something was wrong came at 4:15 p.m. when the school bus returned to Jefferson Elementary, empty except for the driver, Frank Morrison. Principal Margaret Davis waited in the parking lot with a growing crowd of concerned parents, her face pale as the bus doors opened and only Frank stepped out. "Where are the children?" she demanded, her voice cracking with panic. Frank Morrison, a 30-year veteran driver with an impeccable safety record, looked confused and disoriented. His clothes were disheveled and there was a small bandage on the back of his neck. I don't remember," he stammered, touching the bandage unconsciously. "We went to the museum. I remember parking the bus, then nothing. I woke up in the driver's seat around 3 p.m. and the bus was empty." The parents' concerned murmurs turned to panicked shouts. Linda Patterson pushed through the crowd. "Where is my daughter? Where is Sarah?" Frank could only shake his head, his eyes filled with genuine confusion and terror. "I don't know. I can't remember anything after we arrived at the museum." Within an hour, the FBI had taken over the investigation. The Smithsonian confirmed that no Jefferson Elementary field trip had been scheduled for that day. Security cameras at the museum showed no sign of a yellow school bus or any group of children from Connecticut. It was as if 28 children and 2 teachers had simply vanished into thin air. Dr. Michael Harrison was reviewing quarterly reports in his Washington office when the secure phone on his desk rang. As deputy director of the CIA's Special Activities Division, he was accustomed to emergency calls, but something in his assistant's voice made his blood run cold. "Sir, we have a Code 7 situation in Connecticut, a school bus full of children." Harrison's face drained of color. He knew exactly what Code 7 meant. Operation Mindbridge, the classified program he had been overseeing for the past 5 years, had protocols for handling civilian complications. But children, that had never been part of the plan. 20 minutes later, Harrison sat in a secure briefing room with Dr. Elena Vance, the program's chief psychiatrist, and Colonel James Mitchell, military liaison for the project. "How the hell did this happen?" Harrison demanded. Dr. Vance, the same woman who had overseen the Fort Braxton experiments 15 years earlier, looked shaken. There was a miscommunication. The Jefferson Elementary bus driver was supposed to be intercepted and redirected to our facility for standard adult testing. But when he arrived, he had a bus full of children, Colonel Mitchell finished grimly. Our security team panicked. They couldn't let the children return with knowledge of the facility's location. Harrison felt sick. The Millbrook Research Facility, hidden beneath an abandoned Cold War bunker, was conducting the most sensitive psychological experiments in American history. The work was crucial for national security, developing techniques to resist enemy mind control and interrogation. But it was also highly illegal, violating every treaty on human experimentation. "What are our options?" Harrison asked, though he dreaded the answer. Dr. Vance's voice was barely a whisper. "The children have seen too much. They know about the facility. If they return home, they'll talk. The entire program will be exposed." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "Sir," Colonel Mitchell said carefully, "we could adapt the juvenile protocols from the Canadian program. Keep them contained until we can develop appropriate memory suppression techniques." Harrison closed his eyes. The Canadian program had been a disaster. Dozens of children subjected to experimental drugs and psychological manipulation, most suffering permanent mental damage. But the alternative was exposure of a program that had cost taxpayers billions and violated international law. "How long?" he asked. 6 months, maybe less. We're close to a breakthrough in selective memory erasure. Harrison made the decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Do it. But I want minimal contact. These children are to be treated humanely. No experimental procedures without my direct authorization. It was a lie he told himself to sleep at night. 15 years later, construction worker Danny Kowalski was demolishing the abandoned Millbrook Research Center when his sledgehammer broke through what appeared to be a false wall. The October morning was cold, and Danny was eager to finish the job and get home to his family. But what he found behind that wall changed everything. The hidden chamber was larger than a gymnasium, filled with banks of monitoring equipment, filing cabinets, and dozens of small rooms that looked disturbingly like prison cells. Each room contained a single bed, a small desk, and walls covered with children's drawings. Danny's flashlight beam swept across crayon pictures of families, pets, and homes. Stick figures with MOM and DAD written in careful child handwriting. But there were other drawings too, dark, disturbing images of men in white coats, needles, and children crying. In one room, Danny found a child's diary, the pages yellowed with age. The first entry was dated October 16, 1982. "My name is Sarah Patterson. I'm 11 years old. The men in white coats say we're in a special place where we're helping our country. They gave us shots today and said it would help us be braver. I miss my mom. I want to go home." Danny's hands trembled as he continued reading. The entries chronicled months of psychological experiments, drug testing, and gradual mental deterioration. Sarah's handwriting became increasingly erratic, her thoughts more confused and fragmented. The final entry, dated March 3, 1983, was barely legible. "Tommy died today. They said it was an accident, but I saw them carry him out. There are only 6 of us left now. I can't remember my mom's face anymore. The medicine makes everything fuzzy. I think they're going to make us forget everything soon. If someone finds this, please tell my mom I tried to be brave. Tell her I love her." Danny dropped the diary and ran from the building, calling 911 with shaking hands. Within hours, the site was swarmed with federal agents, investigators, and forensic teams. Linda Patterson was 52 now, her hair streaked with gray from 15 years of grief and unanswered questions. She had never given up hope that Sarah might somehow still be alive, despite the police and FBI telling her to accept reality and move on. When the FBI agent called to tell her about the discovery at Millbrook, Linda's world shattered all over again. "We found your daughter's diary," Agent Martinez said gently. "Mrs. Patterson, I'm so sorry." Sarah didn't die on that field trip. She was held captive for several months. Linda collapsed into her kitchen chair, the same chair where she had waited for Sarah to come home every night for 15 years. "Where is she now?" she whispered. Agent Martinez's silence told her everything. The forensic investigation revealed the horrific truth. The 28 children and their teachers had been used as test subjects in illegal psychological experiments. Most had died within the first 6 months from complications related to experimental drugs and procedures. The survivors had been terminated when the program was shut down in 1983. Their bodies had been cremated, their ashes scattered in an unmarked field. No records, no graves, no memorial. They had simply been erased from existence. Dr. Michael Harrison, now 67 and living in quiet retirement in Virginia, was arrested at his home on a Tuesday morning. The man who had once wielded enormous power within the intelligence community was led away in handcuffs while his neighbors watched in shock. Dr. Elena Vance had died 3 years earlier, taking her secrets to the grave. But her extensive files, discovered in the Millbrook facility, provided a detailed record of every experiment, every procedure, every moment of the children's suffering. The congressional hearings that followed rivaled Watergate in their scope and impact. For months, Americans watched in horror as the truth about Operation Mindbridge unfolded. Government officials, scientists, and military personnel testified about a program that had operated without oversight or accountability for decades. Linda Patterson testified on behalf of all the families, her voice strong despite her grief. "My daughter Sarah was an innocent child who loved dinosaurs and wanted to be a paleontologist when she grew up," she told the packed hearing room. "She trusted her teachers, her government, her country. That trust was betrayed in the most horrific way imaginable. These children were not casualties of war or victims of foreign enemies. They were murdered by their own government in their own country by people who swore an oath to protect them." The investigation revealed that Operation Mindbridge was just one of dozens of illegal programs that had operated during the Cold War era. Children, adults, military personnel, and civilians had all been subjected to unauthorized medical and psychological experiments. Harrison was sentenced to life in prison without parole. 17 other officials received lengthy sentences. The CIA's Special Activities Division was dissolved, and new oversight legislation was passed to prevent similar abuses. Today, a memorial stands in Millbrook, where the research facility once operated. 28 small bronze plaques bear the names and photographs of the Jefferson Elementary students and their teachers. The inscription reads simply, "They went on a field trip to learn about the world. Instead, they became victims of those who forgot their humanity. May their memory ensure this never happens again." Every October 15th, the families gather at the memorial. They bring flowers, photos, and memories of the children who never got to grow up. Linda Patterson, now in her 70s, still comes every year, carrying a small fossil in honor of the daughter who never got to become a paleontologist. The school bus that carried the children to their fate was destroyed, but a replica sits at the memorial as a reminder. Its bright yellow paint has faded over the years, but the message painted on its side remains clear. Never forget. Frank Morrison, the bus driver who couldn't remember what happened, eventually regained some of his memories through therapy. He testified at the congressional hearings about being drugged and having false memories implanted to cover up the crime. He spent his remaining years working with families of government abuse victims. The truth about the Jefferson Elementary field trip changed how Americans viewed their government's capacity for evil. It served as a stark reminder that even democracies can become tyrannical when power operates without transparency or accountability. The children's story lives on as a warning. Those who sacrifice liberty for security often lose both. And those who trust blindly in authority do so at their own peril. In the end, Sarah Patterson and her classmates did teach the world something important, just not what Mrs. Wells had planned for that October morning in 1982. They taught us that vigilance is the price of freedom, and that the greatest enemies of liberty sometimes wear the uniforms of those sworn to protect it. Their memory serves as an eternal reminder. Never forget. Never again.